Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Ishan Isaac, Zishan on air every Sunday, 6 p.m. and onward. With social media, I welcome all of you all over the world and in Houston and greater Houston area and the airwaves and through the radio app and with traditional media on FM 95.1 and 1460 AM. So welcome all of you. First of all, our key news and information with regards to this security ramp up after U.S. airstrikes on Iran. So major U.S. cities are tightening security after President Donald Trump unleashed airstrikes on Iran, a direct military intervention that's deepened Washington's role in Israel's war with Tehran and raised concerns about potential retaliation. So we talked about this last Sunday as well, and then obviously the press briefing that occurred, and then with regards to now the retaliation which no one was expecting, and this is coming directly from Iran, and this was posted in Iran International English reporting news outlet that they have, quote, "This is our message to the world, we will do it," unquote. Read a post on an X account affiliated with Iran's Revolutionary Guards, accompanied by a photo of missiles at an underground site in an undisclosed Persian Gulf location. So, what happened? Iran fires missiles at US base in Qatar. And in Arabic, it's Qatar. So, remember, this is the largest base in the Gulf. And they gave advance notice both to the Qatari government as well as to the United States of America. And this is where we all know that US came directly into this fight between Iran and Israel. And then this is the signature of Iran's current regime, whether you like them or whether you don't like them. They gave the heads up to Israel as well when they first attacked them with all these drones going with very slow speed, and those were all shot down. And then the hypersonic missiles that came and attacked Tel Aviv, that I've never seen it in my entire life. And no one ever imagined that Tel Aviv, the invincible Tel Aviv and the government of Netanyahu, that no one can touch that, but Iran did. And then no one ever thought that Iran would also retaliate, even as a token of gesture, unfortunately for lack of a better term, where no one ever thought that the US air base, thank God, no one got injured and all of them were shot down. And that was the whole idea, to send the message loud and clear, even to us, to the United States of America. We are all American citizens. And those of you who are not, hopefully one day you will be. And those of you who are still in the process, please don't give up hope. This is the greatest country in the world. I am still saying it with all of my conviction. Yes, we have problems. Yes, we have opportunities that come along with any problems, but Americans are resilient people. We have seen what happened in World War I. We have seen what happened in World War II. We have seen all the chaos. And then this is where we are today. And then with regards to the President Trump's policies, some you may like those policies, some you may not. And we'll discuss all of that too. So the Department of Homeland Security said the Israel-Iran war has placed the US in a, quote, heightened threat environment, unquote, through September 22nd. So remember, this is not over. So we are still in a heightened state. Now, this is not by any means I want to scare anyone, but I'm just stating the facts in terms of what the Department of Homeland Security put out this notice. And that's what they say. See something, say something, because it's a shared responsibility. It's our home, right? It's our country. It's our neighborhood. And this is where we gotta be on guard as well with regards to no one should harm any American, regardless of their political ideology, regardless of their ethnicities, religion, caste, creed, what have you. So this is until September 22nd because pro-Tehran hacktivists, so this is another action that it's suspected that they will take, hacking may occur, or maybe some other things where are expected to keep probing lightly defended US networks. Remember the cyber war that is still going on, while state-linked operators eye critical infrastructure. according to a bulletin issued on Sunday, that was last Sunday, it warned that a religious ruling from Iran's leadership to retaliate, quote, in the homeland, unquote, would increase the likelihood of, quote, violent extremists, unquote, in the US independently mobilizing. So this is something that you have to keep this at the back of your mind, especially if you're living in a state, if you're living in any area where you may not find friendly authorities or friendly officials, because remember, community policing is so important. So we'll discuss that as well in terms of how that should happen. And I've talked to many police chiefs over the years because of my engagement with the civic society, as well as with the political leadership, as well as with our officials and those who are given the responsibility to serve and protect. This is the image where all these trucks were shown. This is where a lot of people and experts are saying needs to be independently verified, validated. But the idea here is that the uranium that Iran was enriching has been transported to some other site 2 or 3 days before, or maybe some time ago. We don't know. I don't even know when this image was taken. So, but these images have been shared by the officials. This is another image where they put a lot of sand because they knew that these nuclear sites will be bombed, and they tried to protect as many sites as possible with a lot of sand. But then when the president is saying that these sites have been obliterated, a lot of people are questioning that. But then let me give you this thought. When the president is saying, if we are not going to take his word on this point, then what's next? Then the warmongers would say, let's go back and bomb Iran more, number one. And number two is that means there's another war coming in that region, because if you're not going to believe what President Trump is saying. So that's one angle. The other angle is that, yes, they have been destroyed, and let's give diplomacy a chance. That's where President Trump is coming into the picture. And the third picture and the third angle, which many people may not even want to discuss it, that is where that why didn't we look at this in a holistic point of view? Because it was President Trump, let's all face it, who withdrew from this JCPO or something, this whole joint agreement with the world powers and people who negotiated along with Russia, China, and Europe with Iran. So here is the Sun. The US Sun reported, obviously, the axis of evil. That's what they're reporting it, and I'm sharing it with you, that the US has 1.4 million soldiers, and then Russia has over 1 million, and then Iran has 950K, almost a million. So combined, they have almost 2 million soldiers with Russia and Iran, and US has 1.4. And then they're talking about aircraft with both of them. And you can see those images, tanks. US has over 6,000, and Russia has 6,000. Russia has 13,000, and then Iran has 10,000. So all these nuclear sites, no one can say for sure, because this BDA, battle damage assessment, is still ongoing, and it takes sometimes weeks and months to assess what's going on, and then the spies and then human intelligence, what have you. So no one knows actually what has happened down there. According to these BBBs, which is not a big beautiful bill, but we'll talk about that too. It's the bunker buster bombs, and that's what the B-2 Spirit stealth bombers did. They flew thousands of miles, and we all knew how Trump literally bluffed, and some people consider it as what an act, and some people say it's reckless. All depends on what side of the story you want to believe in and what political ideology you belong to. But we have to look at it more from a neutral, objective perspective. Unfortunately, that's not where America is. Either you're in one camp, you're in the other camp, and then the sane voices, objective voices, they're not too many. Here is the State Department also issued, quote, a worldwide caution, unquote, alert for American citizens. So if you are watching this, obviously not many people go to the State Department's website, but you should, because you need to make sure that whatever intelligence and public information that the government is sharing, they are sharing it as a caution. And that's exactly what that is. So this is just a reminder. because you got to stay safe as an American. Trump says, quote, everyone should keep oil prices lower or they are playing into the hands of their enemy. Well, that is what President Trump is saying, but the free enterprise model, the economy works differently. And we will talk about that too in a moment with regards to the New York's race. A lot of things have happened since this fella, Mamdani, even if you're a fan, if you're not a fan, or you're in the middle, or where you may want to just respect the people's vote, we'll discuss that too. The Hill has reported, quote, I would encourage the Chinese government in Beijing to call them about that because they heavily depend on the Straits of Hormuz for their oil, unquote. That's what The Hill, another news outlet, has reported. Marco Rubio has replied to one of the questions. Because the Strait of Hormuz has not been closed, that's good, but that's where 20 to 30% of the world's oil flow through Strait of Hormuz. 20 to 30%, some say it's a little bit over 30%, but this is a very narrow path. They say about 50, 60 miles, some say 104 miles, but that's what has been reported. Trump heads to NATO summit. So he went to NATO, and then obviously we all saw that, what happened. Someone called him daddy. Yes, that was one of the, I think, the NATO chief, Mark, because his dad's name was also Trump. And he said that I'm going to call you daddy. And then President Trump was asked that, do you like to be called daddy? And that is some of the news that also made it into the mainstream news in terms of how these things shape up. Fears over Iran's missing 400 kg of uranium. Some have said 410 kg. I've also heard 405, so somewhere between 400 to 410, based on what has been reported. That's what I've seen and heard. The Telegraph has reported, and Trump says Israel and Iran have agreed to a complete and total quote-unquote ceasefire. And that is where he basically was very angry the other day, last week, during the week, when he dropped the F-bomb, and a lot of people were surprised, but this is where President Trump is trying to make sure that this doesn't go out of hand, out of control. And thank God that even with Israelis and Israel striking back, and then some of that ceasefire actually took time to hold, but it is holding. And I hope it becomes a permanent ceasefire, because that would be in the best interest of all the peoples, not only in that region, but all over the world, because oil prices, economy, everything, we live in a very interconnected world. So this is what's happening. Now, we'll take a look at this side. This is where you can see the Shah of Iran. And by the way, his Crown Prince, Raza Pahlavi, he didn't get any traction. In fact, there have been some reports that started unfollowing President Trump, maybe because he was frustrated with President Trump, because he's not following up on the call for a regime change, as the Netanyahus of the world have called, or those who are very hawkish in terms of removing this regime. But then what comes after? We have seen this story with Saddam Hussein and with Gaddafi in Iraq and Libya, respectively. And then this was the French president behind. So the nuclear program actually started by the French. And that was during the Shah of Iran's days. And then when the Shah of Iran was exiled, basically went into exile, because this person, Khomeini, and they call him Imam Khomeini, those who consider him as a leader, they basically took over. And that's where second person or third in line, or second in line, who knows, this person, Khamenei, who basically was elected as their supreme leader, also, and as part of their government status or government council, and how they govern in Iran. So this is the image. So just some information that Iran's nuclear dreams may survive even a devastating American blow. This is where the New York Times have reported, and then others have reported. That's why President Trump is also very upset with regards to why people are not taking his word. Now, this is where it happens to many presidents. Sometimes people trust their word, and sometimes they don't. Many people who don't like Trump, obviously, they're never going to trust him. And those who like him will always trust each and every word that comes out of his mouth. And then those who may be objective, they would say, okay, well, let's do battle damage assessment. And that's where the Pentagon and the U.S. intelligence, they will do their job. And they will provide some information. And let's hope that information will alleviate the concerns of many people who think that this kilograms or 400 to 410 kgs of uranium, and they have already enriched uranium that comes after yellow cake. And this is all reported in terms of how the entire uranium process works with these centrifuges, what have you. So Iran says an hour before Trump's ceasefire announcement that hadn't seen any proposal. So this is another information that I'm sharing, that these ceasefires happen, which is good. But then again, sometimes the information is not there in real time. And this is where we have to also think about some of the back channel diplomacy and some talks that are always happening. We may not hear about them, we may not see them, but sometimes they happen. That is exactly what happened with India and Pakistan when they went to war. And then many Indians in India, they were questioning their own government that, okay, where did you meet? And was that happening in some talks? And then the external affairs of India was asked this question, this person, Jay Shankar, that did you talk to Marco Rubio? He said that, yes, I did. And then he was diplomatic. So that is where these things happen in back channel talks. The Middle East is undergoing a dramatic realignment, just not the one US and regional leaders envisioned less than 2 years ago. This is Wall Street Journal. So this is interesting because Netanyahu is on record to say that we will change the face of the Middle East. But so far, Netanyahu's of the world and Israeli government, they have not been able to change the face of the Middle East because according to their thought process, they want to get rid of the Iranian regime. The Iranian regime, although they suffered some heavy blows, but their process of governance and the Iranians are still standing with their government. The Middle East is obviously reported, as I mentioned earlier, and then some more information with regards to the key objectives is that the Abraham's Accord is expanded. And this is where this whole idea, the special envoy Steve Witkoff said Wednesday that, they want to bring more countries into the Abraham Accords with alliances and maybe with arm twisting, again, depending on how you look at this. And Saudis have been pressured, but they're still not signing the Abraham Accords. But then many say that without signing, they are part of the Accords. Well, that is, again, up to your interpretation and how you look at these governments. Live updates where Iran says it fired missiles at US base in Qatar. And then Qatar said with the Article 51 of the United Nations charter that every country and every individual has a right to self-defense. So obviously they said that we're going to retaliate, but obviously Qatar cannot retaliate. They said it, and of course they did, and that's good that they did not. Then another country would have been involved into this conflict. So that's good news. And then some criticism came from the former CIA director, Leon Panetta, and he said that I ran the CIA. There are Trump's mistakes and why they are so scary. And this is where he laid out his point of view in the Times and other news outlets. US officials had hoped Saudi Arabia would eventually follow suit, but expectations have dwindled since Israel's war in Gaza, which drew sharp denunciation from Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. And MBS is the crown prince, and he will be the next king as the writing is on the wall. Wall Street Journal also reported that his first term, obviously United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan, they all signed the Abraham Accords. So keep that in mind. So this is 2.0 Abraham Accords or Abraham Accords 2.0. So this is the picture of this person who has become very famous. He's the assemblyman, Zohran Mamdani. Now, switching gears to the U.S. domestic politics, New York City, obviously, the Wall Street of the world, the capitalist center or the capital of the capitalist world. And this is a Democrat socialist. And that's what he calls himself. Now, he has won this race. This is a political earthquake. Let me repeat, it is a political earthquake that has happened because the Democratic leadership is not with him. Chuck Schumer They have said some nice things, but they have not endorsed him. And then Hakeem Jeffries, they're both from New York. And they are the ones who are the leaders of the House of Representatives and Senate minority leader, both Chuck Schumer and then Hakeem Jeffries in the House of Representatives as the minority leader. So they are the ones who are the official faces of the Democratic leadership in Washington, D.C. The only person who has endorsed in terms of that limelight is AOC, Alexandria Cortez, right? So Olivia Cortez. So Alexandria, AOC, she goes by Alexandria. So she is obviously considered as a progressive person, and she has been touring with Senator Bernie Sanders. They both are considered as part of the liberal or progressive caucus. And Bernie Sanders, in fact, is an independent. And then we all know what happened in 2016 with regards to the momentum that he gained. But then with this fighting oligarchy trip and tour of Senator Bernie Sanders, he has gained a lot of momentum, even in the states where Trump has won decisively or with overwhelming majority of the voters. This is where a lot of people are also from the Democratic Party, or those who have been traditionally Democrats, voted for Trump because of affordability. And that's what Zohran Mamdani has said. Now, this New York City mayoral primary victory came from these neighborhoods and a far broader coalition than expected. And this is where he has beaten the political machine, where Andrew Cuomo, who should not be anywhere close to the public arena in terms of serving, because he had so many scandals. Everyone knows about this. And with affairs, and then he had to resign. And then we know that he was not popular, but he still got more than 300,000 votes. And then a lot of lobbyists were supporting and currently supporting, and he still is thinking about running as independent. And that this is where the question is being asked to him today in Meet the Press, Zohran Mamdani, that can you beat both Eric Adams? He is the current mayor of New York. And remember, he is the reason why Zohran Mamdani is so popular, because some of the promises that Eric Adams made, he has yet to fulfill those promises to New Yorkers, New York City residents and voters. And number two, that he associated himself very closely with President Trump, especially with the quid pro quo, as they call it, with ICE raids, where NYPD is arresting people on immigration violations and those who are undocumented, and all those type of things that happen with Borazar and his initiative, Tom Homan. And Zohran Mamdani is standing as a pillar, and he's saying that game on. That's what Tom Homan said. And this fight is not going anywhere or stopping at this point. It's going to just heat up as we go into summer more. As the temperature would rise, this political environment will also rise. Laura Loomer demands Trump charge Zohran over made-up terrorism claim. Remember, he was 1 or 2 years old. He came to this country as a child, legal immigration. He is from Uganda, and his father was from Uganda. If I'm not mistaken, his mother may be from India, and they are from East Africa. That's where he was born. But he's a naturalized citizen, and he's an assemblyman. And this is where a lot of racism will also play out into this whole race until the mayoral election. Because remember, he has won the primary of the Democratic Party. And since New York City is the hub, I would say, in terms of Democrats, Hillary Clinton, she became the New York senator, if you all recall, and if you refresh your memories. And then California, New York, they're all Democrats and Democratic states in terms of the city population, and all those who overwhelmingly vote for Democrats. But the rural areas, even for the state of New York, still vote for Republicans and GOP. And then many Democrats or independents also voted for President Trump this time because of affordability. So now affordability basically was the main reason, and he made that as a focus based on his interview that I gathered. But then he was asked about billionaires, and he said he doesn't like billionaires. And then President Trump came out very strong in terms of his messaging that, okay, he's a communist. And he's saying that he's not. And then he is defining his own words and terms. So again, it's the younger voters, the progressives and the progressive young votes, so people under the age of 30, what have you, where affordability is a big issue in all the 5 boroughs. He wants to create government-run supermarkets in one borough, and then expand it as a model with others. And some of the key information that I would like to share as well with regards to how it's going to pay for free bus rides and rent freezes, and those rents went up 9% under Eric Adams. He wants to change the board. So there are some technicalities, but then again, a lot of these ideas are coming with regards to how he's going to pay for all of this. Now, the budget, the state budget of New York is $252 billion. And not only that, but then the municipal budget of New York City is $113 billion. So he's saying that his program would cost anywhere from $700 million to $5 or $6 billion. And this is where he is raising the taxes on the top 1% from 49% to 51%. That will match the state of New Jersey. But that is where he is getting a lot of criticism in terms of would that impact negatively to all these billionaires and those who definitely want to flee the city. And they're losing a lot of people because of the economic environment to Palm Beach, to Florida, and even to California. So this is where it's going to be interesting. So the New York City has fallen. Donald Trump Jr., the eldest son of eldest child of President Donald Trump, wrote on Wednesday, quoting a post from another user claiming they were, quote, old enough to remember when New Yorkers endured 9/11 instead of voting for it, unquote. So this is interesting stuff, how because of his faith, he is being associated as guilty of association. So this is where you can see he has been elected by the New Yorkers. Mamdani has gotten a lot of support, who would be his continued support, and he has 50,000 plus volunteers. So this was the people's movement. Now, yes, the young people, they as Mayor Eric Adams saying they don't want handouts. Well, you cannot say that. Well, the voters, it's up to them what kind of governance they want. That's where, if we really believe in democracy, that's what we have to believe in. That's what the voters want. We can put all these social terms, communist, which he's denying is not, and socialist. I mean, these are some political buzzwords, but that's not how the voters look at these terms. They look at who is genuine, sincere, and every race is different. So this is where you can see a lot of momentum. And then Woodside, Queens overwhelmingly went to Zoran with more than 65% of the vote, as well as Chinatown, Manhattan. And then very interesting things that are happening. Now, a Queens neighborhood represented by City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino, a Republican firebrand who had called to, quote, deport, unquote, the lefty pot during the primary race. So imagine these type of calls are being made. And this is where Republicans have to stand up and ask their representatives, City Councilwoman, in this case, Vicky, that Vicky, calm down. Whatever choice of words you want to use. But this is what she said, deport him. Deport him for what? But that's what, people who are objective will ask this question, right? The ignorance of people never ceases to amaze me. That's what she said. Yeah, and a lot of people will also say that the ignorance of you would never cease to amaze many people as well. So, this is where it's become a political theater. And then she said some more stuff. I don't want to read all of that. Ron Paul has raised some alarm. President Trump is unleashing a great, big, ugly surveillance state. This was reported in the Register. And then he said that the abandonment of liberty because fear drives people to trust government promises of safety is a phenomenon we had witnessed several times this century. So this is, he's talking about the Patriot Act, and then he also made the case. And remember, Ron Paul, he ran for the presidency, and he was also a former congressman. And then he also mentioned about they agreed with the President George W. Bush, who said he had quote, abandoned free market principle to save the free market system, unquote. So Ron Paul is a former member of the House of Representatives and also remember. So this is the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity and reported in the Orange County Register. The Supreme Court made a very key decision, and this is where clinical law professor from Columbia, Elora Mukherjee, she mentioned that there are 700 of these federal district judges, and then she is mentioning that you will see a lot of class action lawsuits. So this fight is not over, but the Supreme Court curbs injunctions that block Trump's birthright citizenship plan. So what does that mean? That basically means that the United States Supreme Court did not actually made a decision on this ending birthright citizenship, because that's the 14th Amendment. But they definitely have given a very big win for the Trump administration, that it's up to the states and it's up to the administration to enforce their policy. And then this is where Elora also mentioned, she's a clinical law professor at Columbia, that it happened to President Obama as well when he wanted to have this mandate over the abortion pill, because that was also stopped by one of the district judges. So this is where this fight will continue. What the Supreme Court's ruling means for birthright citizenship, this is where it will go down to each of these states, but the next 30 days we have to watch those closely, and this may come back to the US Supreme Court. So bottom line is, this ruling is a win for Trump's administration. It revokes the legal tool used to block his order nationwide, but doesn't decide the underlying constitutional debate on birthright citizenship. That's number one point. Number two, it's now up to lower courts and additional lawsuits to either block or allow the policy in more jurisdictions. So the fight will come to each states and each district courts. And then in plain terms, some states may enforce his policy, others may not. Depending on ongoing legal action, the outcome remains uncertain. So this is definitely interesting times. And I would say that people need to pay attention with regards to how we are a nation of laws and how these laws are going to be challenged in the courts, and then where Supreme Court may face this question again if the class action lawsuit would go, which according to many legal experts, the class action lawsuit is also coming. Maybe it's already filed. I haven't seen some reports there. And very important with regards to this whole phenomena of Mamdani. I want to spend just the last minute on this. This whole debate with regards to Mamdani will divide Americans. And why do I say that? Because I just want to read my statement on this, because I want to make sure that we understand what is going on here. Mamdani still faces significant challenges. He is navigating opposition from entrenched interests, influential advocacy groups, and a mayor who seems to have distanced himself from his Democratic colleagues. Party leadership continues to back Eric Adams, who has previously received support from President Trump. At its heart, this isn't about ideology. It's about divide between the haves and have-nots. What will be at play in this race? Identity politics, people turn against each other, politicians deepening divisions, and outsiders assuming every Democrat's policies mirror Mamdani's. It's the perfect playbook for idealism versus reality. The candidate matters. Every race is different, and who's running truly shapes the outcome. When I ran for office, for the first time, and the only time, I faced opposition and similar headwinds, but I stayed the course without compromising my principles or core values. It will always be an uphill battle when your heart and mind are in the right place. That's why it's critical to study and research the candidates, because they have mastered the art of dividing we the people. God bless, and God bless America. So with that, all I'm going to say that there will be a lot of emotions and a lot of wrong perceptions about his faith, and is he a communist? Is he a socialist, which he denies he's not? But then he has also said some things which are interesting, especially on his website. So I would like to, call that out as well. He basically has posted, and this was asked in Meet the Press, quote, this is on Mamdani's website, shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods, unquote. So the race war. And he was asked this question. He said, why are you invoking race? And he said that, no, I'm just calling it like it is. Well, that is a diplomatic answer. That's not how people are perceiving this. So whenever you inject identity politics, it would become interesting. And that's where it becomes very convoluted. So we will continue to watch. We'll continue to discuss this. Again, my whole idea here is to keep everyone informed. I report, you decide, and I provide my analysis. It's up to people to agree or disagree or just react to it. But again, please subscribe and share if you have not. And I would like to thank our key advertisers, Affordable Insurance of Texas, AITinsurance.com. 713-785-4000 is the number. AITinsurance.com for homeowners insurance, commercial insurance, business insurance, auto insurance. You name it, they got it, and you will save hundreds and thousands of dollars. So go to their website, AITinsurance.com, from anywhere in the state. And also, if you're in Houston, greater Houston area, please visit AITinsurance.com and call them 713-785-4000. And then Roop Sari. So we all like to wear great clothes and traditional outfits. That's where men's trendy outfits for men's and for grooms, sherwanis, kurta pajamas, and kurtis and kurtas for boys, women, and girls for all ages. And they have great collection, hundreds and thousands of suits and collections, and thousands of square footage under one stop shop, under one roof, roopsari.com or Roop Sari Palace at Hillcroft. You can certainly go and visit them. With that, I would like to sign off, and then we'll continue with the traditional media. Thank you.